Rain pounded the thick canopy above the village of Leif, casting shadows that flickered like restless spirits across the mud-slick paths. Thunder rattled the timbers of the orphan lodge, where Leif huddled by the flickering hearth, heart pounding in rhythm with the storm. He pressed his palm to the window, feeling the electric tingle of the approaching veil, a sensation only he could sense. Outside, a knot of elders argued, voices muffled over the wind. Leif barely listened. His gaze was fixed on the woods beyond, the boundary between Selvaria and the legends grown thicker every year. Suddenly, a voice soft as moss brushed his mind. "The veil is thinning, Leif. Do not ignore the signs." Leif jumped back. The voice belonged to no human, but the ancient sycamore elder Timar, whose roots cradled the foundation of the village. Leif glanced around. No one noticed him talking to trees. Not tonight of all nights, when the shimmering blue haze began to snake between the trunks, a harbinger of what was coming. He hurried into the rain, cloak fluttering behind him. The wind carried whispers, anxious spirits calling his name. He darted past puddles, ignoring the shouts of his caretaker. A figure stepped from the shadows, blocking his path. Old Myra, the herb witch, her eyes glowing in the gloom. "Going somewhere, boy?" she croaked, leaning on her staff. Rain streamed off her hat like tiny rivers. Leif mustered courage. "The woods need me." "The vial?" Myra's gaze softened. "You hear them, don't you? The voices. You're not like the others." Leif nodded, dropping his voice to a whisper. "Something's wrong. The spirits are afraid. An old darkness waking." She reached into her pouch, pulling out a glimmering stone on a leather cord. "Take this. It will mark you as a friend to the good folk, and a warning to the wicked, but it cannot save you if your heart falters." Lightning slashed the sky, illuminating a translucent wall shimmering deeper in the forest. Shapes writhed within, both beautiful and terrible. Leif's breath caught. Myra's voice followed him into the trees. "Find the veil's secret, or Selvaria is lost." Drawing strength from the spirits swirling around him, Leif stepped over the threshold and vanished from the world he'd known. The adventure had begun, and already, he knew, there was no turning back. The first thing Leif noticed past the vial was the silence. Not the quiet that follows a storm, but a deep, humming stillness, the kind that makes your pulse thud louder in your ears. Each raindrop seemed to freeze midair, suspended like tiny diamonds. Night creatures with jewel-bright eyes watched from the roots, and pale spirits hovered, curious but wary. He pressed forward, the pendant Myra had given him warm against his chest. A fox-like creature with wings dropped from a low branch, tail swishing in the shimmering gloom. Its emerald eyes fixed on Leif. "You are not of Eldoria, Spirit Walker," it spoke, its voice a lilting melody. "Why do you cross the Shimmering Veil?" Leif hesitated, heart thumping, before answering. "My home is in danger. The darkness comes and the spirits are afraid." The winged fox cocked its head. "Many come for glory, few with purpose. I am Eris. Follow, but tread lightly." Deeper into Eldoria's heart, the trees twisted into impossible shapes, their branches dripping with light. Leif caught glimpses of creatures woven from mist, a deer crowned with flowers, and rivers that flowed uphill. Each step was dizzying, as if the land itself shifted and breathed. A low growl snapped his attention back. 3 shadowy hounds barred their path, teeth as sharp as grief. Eris arched its wings protectively. Leif squared his shoulders, voice trembling. "I mean you no harm. Please, let me through. My village, our world needs help." The largest hound hesitated, recognition flickering in its eyes at the pendant's light. The spirits beside Leif rose up, forming a silvery shield, just as old Myra's charm pulsed brighter. The hounds drew back, melting into shadow. Eris nodded with approval. "Courage and kindness, rare in your kind," Eris murmured. "Few walk freely in Eldoria without losing themselves. Most are tested early and found wanting." Leif swallowed. "I have to be brave for everyone. I don't want to fail." Eris flicked its tail, half smiling. "Choose your allies wisely. Not all creatures here will answer to your plea. There's someone you must meet, the Keeper, but before that, you must cross the dreaming glade." Together they set off, the path ahead aglow with untold danger and impossible wonder. For the first time, a flicker of hope warmed Leif's fear. He had taken his first step into a world shaped by dreams and nightmares. The dreaming glade was breathtaking, a valley blanketed in whispering grass and dotted with enormous luminous blooms. Colors shifted with every breeze, one moment sapphire, the next a blaze of fiery gold. Leif could hardly believe his eyes. Even the air shimmered with unseen melodies. As he followed Eris along the winding trail, strange laughter and music drifted from behind tangled hedgerows. A trio of misty figures appeared, dancing in a circle. Leif gazed in awe. They moved with a joy so pure it hurt, their faces blurred as if half-remembered dreams. "Be careful," Eris warned quietly. "The glade hungers for memories. Follow me, and do not stray." A delicate voice floated up from the flowers near Leif's feet. "Stay and play, forest child. Surely your burden can wait." Leif frowned, but a gentle tug at his thoughts made him hesitate. Suddenly an image bloomed in his mind, his small room, the soft lullabies the caretaker used to sing, the warmth of a home he'd almost forgotten. Eris urgently snapped her tail in front of him. "Do not let them take what makes you whole." With effort, Leif blinked and stepped backward, breaking the illusion. The misty figures hissed, the flowers withering around them, and the music faded to a mournful dirge. Eris regarded him with approval. "You are stronger than you know." Leif's voice shook. "Were they real?" "Not as you understand it," Eris replied. "This place traps wanderers in longing and regret. Take nothing from it but wisdom." They pressed on, but the air grew thick. Ahead a hulking shape loomed, a great stag, its antlers wreathed in ferns, eyes glowing with ancient power. Roots curled around its hooves, binding it to the glade. With a low grunt the stag spoke, its voice echoing like thunder. "Few mortals walk here with spirits as strong as yours. Answer my riddle, and the path to the keeper shall open. What endures when memory fades and darkness nears?" Leif looked to Eris, but the fox offered only a subtle nod. Heart racing, Leif thought of the light that held him steady, of hope and kindness given freely. He met the stag's gaze. "Love endures." The stag's eyes softened and the roots shrank away. "You may pass, Leif of Selvaria. May your love light the way, even when the night is long." The glade parted, revealing a tall stone bridge arching over silver mist beyond. Leif stepped forward, the lesson burning in his heart. Every trial he faced, he realized, would require more than strength. It would test the very core of who he was becoming. Leif crossed the ancient stone bridge, every footstep echoing over the swirling silver mist below. His nerves prickled with a sense of unseen eyes watching from the fog. Eris padded beside him, silent now and alert as the bridge narrowed. At its center stood a gate of impossible design, woven from living vines and flecked with ghostly petals. Suddenly, a whisper curled up from the mist. "Name the truth you seek, child of sorrow." Leif steadied his breath and answered aloud, "I seek the keeper of the veil. I seek to save my world." The vines reacted, curling tighter, and the petals pulsed with cold blue light. From the center, a figure emerged, half shadow, half light, a woman with eyes that flickered like starlight. This was the keeper, ancient and mysterious. "Why should you, a mortal, be granted audience?" The keeper's voice rang out, echoing in Leif's mind. He swallowed. "Because my village, my people, all of Selvaria, face a darkness that threatens both realms. I came to learn how to save them." The keeper studied him, her gaze shifting between his face and the pulsing pendant Myra had given him. "Many speak of darkness. Few understand what must be sacrificed to stand against it. What will you give, Leif?" Eris spoke for the first time. "He has braved the dreaming glade with a pure heart. That must count for something." The keeper considered Eris, then returned her attention to Leif. "You must travel further, beyond the whispering peaks, where the darkness dwells. But every answer has its price. Will you carry the pain of those you've lost, and those you may yet lose, to bring balance?" Leif's lips trembled, but he stood straighter. "Yes, I'll carry their pain if it means hope for them." For a moment, the keeper's eyes softened. "Then receive this gift, the rune of passage. It will shield your heart against despair, but only if your intentions remain true." She pressed a shimmering rune into his hand. Instantly, warmth flooded him, pushing back the ache of loneliness and fear. The vines parted, and the path ahead revealed jagged mountain silhouettes bathed in dawn's eerie light. "Go," the keeper intoned, "and beware the shadows that twist truth into lies. Eldoria will test not just your strength, but what you believe in most." With renewed resolve, Leif tightened his grip on the rune and followed Eris into the unknown. Their goal was clear: journey through the whispering peaks and face the darkness lying in wait. And somewhere in those wild heights, answers and allies. awaited. The world changed with every step into the whispering peaks. The path turned steep and treacherous, bluffs zigzagging upward among clouds that shimmered with unnatural light. Wind howled through stone arches, carrying haunting voices, memories of those who'd tried and failed before. Leif shivered beneath his cloak, but the rune of passage glowed softly against his palm, banishing the worst of the chill. Eris leapt nimbly over jagged stones, stopping occasionally to scan the horizon. Snowflakes began to fall, but each one glistened with faint blue sparks, magic made cold and sharp. A sudden crack split the air. Rocks tumbled and a slender figure scrambled out from behind a boulder, gasping. It was a girl, no older than Leif, wild hair, eyes vivid as sapphires. She wore a coat made from raven feathers and clenched a crooked staff. She looked equal parts frightened and defiant. "Who are you?" Leif called, holding up his hands. "We mean no harm." The girl narrowed her eyes. "Most who come here are fools or thieves. Which are you?" Eris stepped forward. "We seek the darkness that lives in these heights. Will you help us or hinder us?" The girl hesitated, then seemed to measure Leif's sincerity. "I'm called Rowan. My village was swallowed by shadow. I live here now, hunting what's left of it." Leif's voice softened. "We're fighting that same darkness. Maybe together we have a chance." She lowered her staff, a flicker of hope in her eyes. "You truly mean to try? Ha, all right, but keep up. The shadow feeds at sunrise when fog is thickest. That's when I hunt too." Through wind-scoured passes and snow-choked gullies, Leif and his growing group picked their way forward. At sunrise, the mist turned pale gold, and from it, dark shapes slithered. Huge, wolfish creatures of living shadow circled them, eyes burning violet. Rowan lifted her staff, shouting, "Hold fast to your hope." Leif clutched his rune, heart hammering, as the spirits he'd befriended swirled to his aid, forming glowing shields. Eris launched at a shadow wolf, tail ablur. Rowan's staff flashed, scattering sparks of blue and white. "Leif," Eris barked, dodging a snapping maw. "Remember why you fight." Summoning the memory of his village, of small kindnesses and friendships, Leif sent out a wave of warmth. The shadows recoiled. Rowan's staff found the largest wolf's heart, and with a defiant cry she turned darkness into mist. Soon, the peaks rang with silence, broken only by their ragged breaths. Rowan grinned, breathless. "You really are different, Leif." Eris nodded, both wary and impressed. "With each struggle, you grow. But the darkness roots deeper still. Its heart lies ahead." Together, Leif, Rowan, and Eris pressed on through the cold wilds, newfound trust binding them. The mountains had tested their resolve, but also given them new strength. In the distance, a ruined tower rose against the storm, promising new challenges, and perhaps the answers they sought. Mist clung to the ruined tower, making its ancient stones glow blue in the dusky light. Leif, Eris, and Rowan approached cautiously. The path was overgrown with twisted brambles, each thorn dripping with silvery dew that whispered secrets as they brushed past. A great door, half-rotted, barred their entry. Rowan tapped her staff along its edge and muttered a charm. The wood buckled, and the door creaked open, revealing a spiraling staircase plunging into darkness below. Cold air rushed up, carrying scents of earth and something older beneath. Leif hesitated, fingers tightening on the rune of passage. Rowan raised her staff, fiery blue at its tip. "Ready?" Rowan asked, peering down into the black. Leif swallowed hard but nodded. "If the source of the darkness is here, we have to face it, together." Eris ran ahead, tail streaming like a comet. "No turning back," Eris called over her shoulder. "Trust your heart, not your eyes. This place deceives." They descended. With each turn, the air grew heavier, thick with a sorrow that tried to drag Leif down. Shadows on the walls flickered and danced in shapes of those Leif once loved. He felt his will waver, but the spirits that followed glowed steady, and Eris and Rowan pressed close. Suddenly, the passage widened into a grand, shattered chamber. Stained glass windows flickered dimly high above, filtering in slivers of strange purple light. On a raised dais, circled in obsidian flame, stood a figure, wraith-like, robed in smoke, eyes like pits oozing despair. Leif felt icy fear lance through him. Rowan stepped beside him, defiant. "You're the shadow at the heart of the peaks, aren't you?" The wraith's voice scraped like stone. "You trespass in my night. The Veil's end is come. All of Selvaria will wither, unless you abandon this folly." Eris bristled, hackles raised. "We won't run. Tell us, why does your darkness spread?" The shadow thing's face twisted. I am born of forgotten grief, the pain mortals leave behind. Give me your hope, child, and I will let you leave. Leif stood tall, heart pounding. I can't. My hope belongs to my people, and no darkness, not even you, can claim it without a fight. The wraith shrieked, sending black flames roaring across the floor. Rowan slammed her staff down, calling protective words. Eris darted forward, slashing at coils of shadow. Leif gripped the rune, focusing every lesson learned. Love endures, courage grows, and shone his spirit bright, blinding the darkness momentarily. The wraith recoiled, but the battle was only beginning. Rowan growled, bracing for the next wave. Hold on, Leif. Their greatest trial so far raged in the ruined tower, testing every bond. Beneath it all, Leif could sense, deep inside the wraith, there was something wounded, and the secret to stopping the darkness might lie in healing more than defeating. As the fight pressed on, new doubts warred with hope, and Leif realized this journey would not just test his strength, but his compassion for even the darkest of foes. The wraith lashed out with a flurry of shadowy tendrils. Rowan's wards flickered under the onslaught, tiny cracks appearing as the force intensified. Eris darted from shadow to shadow, drawing the creature's attention and snapping her jaws to keep it off balance. Leif's mind raced. He remembered the stag's words, "Love endures when darkness nears." The rune of passage pulsed brightly at his chest, a steady warmth fighting back the chill terror seeping into his bones. Through the shrieking chaos, he looked past the wraith's monstrous form and caught a fleeting glimpse, a tiny, shimmering light flickering within its smoky chest. A wounded heart, just as he'd suspected. Gathering his courage, Leif called out over the din, "You don't have to do this. You're not alone. Whatever pain you carry, let us help you carry it." The wraith reeled, its swirling form sputtering, but its anger doubled. "Mortals have abandoned me for centuries. Pain is all I have left." Eris flanked the wraith, pinning its attention. Rowan, brow furrowed in concentration, called to Leif, "It's weakening. If you can reach it, do it now." Stepping forward, Leif opened his memories, of his parents lost, of the friendships and joys survived in his orphan years, and of every kindness the spirits and his allies had shown him. The rune blazed, filling the chamber with golden light. The shadows writhed and thrashed, but Leif pressed on. "Let go of the pain, just for a moment. Feel hope again." The flicker in the wraith's core grew brighter. Its voice trembled, suddenly smaller. "If I let hope in, what becomes of me?" Leif's answer came soft but sure. "You become something more. You find peace." Rowan, seeing his bravery, added, "We can face this together. Shadows fade, but stories and hearts heal, even the oldest wounds." A long silence filled the broken room. Then, with a sound like a great sigh, the wraith's darkness shrank around the light in its chest, and for a heartbeat it shimmered with color, blue, gold, and green, the hues of a new dawn. Suddenly, the obsidian flames guttered, and the chamber was calm. The wraith, no longer monstrous but fragile and almost human, knelt before Leif. "Thank you," it whispered. "You have given me rest. May the veil hold a little longer because you dared mercy." Leif stumbled, exhausted but hopeful, as the wraith dissolved into gentle mist. The stained glass blazed with morning light, and for the first time since he'd crossed the veil, Leif let himself believe they could save Selvaria. But as Rowan and Eris helped him to his feet, the mountain rumbled beneath them. Eris's voice trembled with warning. "Something else stirs, a hunger deeper than sorrow. Our trial is not finished." The path to the veil's heart opened before them, and with new resolve, they descended, knowing the greatest darkness was yet to come. The tremor in the mountain quickly grew into a grinding roar. Dust rained from the ceiling, and ancient stones shuddered as Leif, Rowan, and Eris hurried through the newly exposed passage at the back of the ruined chamber. Shadows deepened with every step, swallowing the fading morning light and thickening into a pitch-black corridor that twisted far beneath the peaks. Rowan lit her staff, her voice tight. "Did you feel it too? That cold hunger?" Eris's fur bristled, her green eyes narrowed. "This is older than grief. Something at the root of Eldoria, something that lives as long as the veil has stood." Leif pressed the rune to his chest, drawing strength from its warmth. "If it's a part of the veil, then maybe only someone who's crossed both worlds can face it." They moved cautiously down the spiral, etched with glowing runes that pulsed in warning. The air thickened, and the path widened into an immense cavern. At its center, a terrible shape slumbered, a colossal serpent made of shadow and starlight, coiled around the veil's very heart, a pulsing orb of shifting color. Rowan gasped quietly. The first shadow, it's real. The serpent's eyes flickered open, ancient and fathomless. Its voice was a hollow, echoing rumble. Welcome, interlopers. The time has come for the veil to fall. Step back, or be consumed with your world. Leif shook, but stepped forward. We won't let you destroy both realms. There must be another way. The serpent rose, immense and menacing, energy swirling like a storm. With a lash of its tail, it knocked Eris and Rowan aside, pinning Leif under the weight of its gaze. Do you even understand what the veil is? It hissed. A prison, binding magic and sorrow, hope and fear. My hunger is the world's pain. I will swallow it and be free. Leif gritted his teeth and struggled to stand. But if you destroy the veil, everything will die. There'll be nothing left to hope for. The serpent recoiled, momentarily uncertain. Eris pulled herself to her feet, limping. Leif, we have to weaken it. It feeds on despair. Do what you did before. Share hope. Rowan gripped her staff, sending arcs of blue-white energy at the serpent, causing it to flinch. Leif closed his eyes, calling forth every memory of love, resilience, and the friendships blossomed on this journey. A glowing halo surrounded the trio, radiating warmth and the promise of renewal. The serpent shrieked, but the veil's orb pulsed brighter, sending cracks through its shadowy coils. No, the serpent roared. You cannot undo what the world has become. Leif's heart thundered. We're not trying to undo the world. We're trying to heal it. As their light pressed against the serpent's darkness, a swirling vortex opened beneath them, threatening to pull the friends apart. The orb at the heart of the veil now shuddered wildly, caught between breaking and rebirth. In that instant, Leif realized the battle was only half won. Before the veil could heal, they would all have to face what lay deepest in themselves. The final test was coming, and time was running out. The cavern shuddered as the serpent's coils constricted around the orb, sending shockwaves through the stone. The vortex of darkness deepened, swirling with fragments of memory and fear. Rowan threw herself against the pull, Eris at her side, claws dug deep into the trembling ground. Leif clung to the rune of passage, his spirit wavering between hope and utter despair. The serpent's voice coiled around his thoughts. You believe you can heal what was always broken? For a heartbeat, Leif faltered. Doubts surged. Maybe he wasn't enough, maybe all he'd done was for nothing. He remembered the cold loneliness of the orphan lodge, the pain of being different, the desperation in his village's eyes. The vortex began to draw him in, shadows whispering his darkest fears. Leif, fight it! Rowan shouted, her staff stretched toward him. We're here with you. You're not alone anymore. Eris's voice joined hers, fierce and urgent. You chose courage over fear every step of the way. Don't stop now. He looked up, saw the faith in their faces, and something kindled inside him. Despite everything, they believed in him. He clung to those words, to every spark of light his friends had given him. He reached out through the vortex, not with force but with open hands, and for the first time truly accepted his own pain. He let himself grieve, then let that sorrow turn into compassion. He called to the spirits, the forest, to all of Eldoria and Selvaria. We are more than pain. We are love, memory, and hope fulfilled. We are stronger together. The rune exploded with light, a warm, golden surge that tangled with Rowan's magic and Eris's wild spirit. It broke the serpent's grip, causing the cavern to flood with color and song. The serpent thrashed, suddenly uncertain. But as the veil's orb glowed ever brighter, the cavern began to crack apart. Starlight poured in, and a great wind lifted the trio from the earth, pulling them into the heart of the veil itself, a place of pure, shifting light and infinite possibility. Here, Leif, Rowan, and Eris were separate, yet together, surrounded by fragments of memory from both worlds. The serpent's voice resounded fainter now. If you truly wish to restore the veil, you must face what lies at its core. All wounds, old and new. A final threshold formed before them, radiant and trembling. Rowan took Leif's hand, Eris pressed close, and together, they stepped through. On the other side, the world seemed to hang in suspension. Time stilled, space infinite. The truth of the veil's pain and the chance to mend it forever awaited them in the final trial. But so did the risk of losing everything to darkness if their hope failed. Leif took a shaky breath. One more step. They pressed forward, hearts united for the last great test. Inside the core of the veil, reality bent and warped. Colors drifted like mist, forming endless reflections of Leif, Rowan, and Eris, each echo carrying scars, triumphs, and fears. Instead of ground, they stood atop a vast shimmering pool where memories pooled and rippled, scenes from Selvaria and Eldoria, both their tragedies and joys. The air hummed with potential, but the ache of all the world's wounds pressed in on their hearts, threatening to dull their spirits. The serpent, diminished and sorrowful, appeared on the far shore, its eyes searching. Here, all things come undone. Can you weave them whole again? Leif looked sideways at Rowan and Eris. Rowan's hand trembled in his, her bravado stripped raw, but there was determination in her gaze. Eris's ears flicked, but she stood tall, wild and unwavering. The trust between the trio felt like an unbreakable thread. The veil's voice rang through the space, soft and ancient, neither mortal nor magical entirely. To heal me, you must share not only your hope, but your deepest pain and your greatest truth. Leif's chest tightened. He stepped forward, letting every hurt rise, his parents' loss, the loneliness, the sense of not belonging. I am afraid, he admitted aloud, his voice cracking. But I don't want to be defined by what I've lost. I want to build something better for both worlds. Rowan's voice followed. I've been angry for so long at the loss, the injustice. But I see now anger can shield hope, not just choke it. I forgive those who failed me and myself. Eris bowed her head, fur bristling. I have lived on the edge, never trusting, always surviving. But I choose trust now. I choose friends over fear. As they spoke their truths, the shimmering pool brightened, weaving their pain and hope together. The serpent recoiled as beams of gold and emerald light swept through its form. It hissed, not in wrath but relief, as if released from centuries of suffering. The veil's core pulsed and voices echoed, those of the spirit souls from each world, sharing forgiveness, understanding, and a fierce desire for unity over despair. The orb at the center of the veil spun faster, absorbing every memory, every act of compassion and courage, until it burst in a gentle storm of luminous feathers and stardust. The darkness faded. The shimmering wall between worlds grew strong, not as a barrier, but as a living bond, vivid, flexible, and imbued with hope. The cavern reformed around them, whole and blooming with life, the stone walls covered in new growth and the scent of dawn. The serpent, now a silver-scaled guardian, raised its head. You have changed the world. The veil is healed because you dared to meet darkness with compassion. Leif gazed at his friends, his hands trembling with wonder. I never thought I could be the one to save anyone, but together we did. Rowan grinned, tears shining in her eyes. You did more than save us, Leif. You showed us what's possible if we believe in more than fear. Eris pressed close, voice warm. Selvaria and Eldoria can learn from each other now. You opened a path no one else dared. As magic and sunlight wove through the restored veil, the voice of the Keeper echoed in Leif's mind. You're not just a bridge. You are the beginning of a new story. With the Shimmering Veil reborn, heroes and spirits alike stepped into a dawn where two worlds would heal, dream, and flourish together, because one young orphan chose hope and found the courage to share it. The adventure did not end here, but the darkness would never again stand unchallenged as long as stories like Leif's burned bright.